When you hear the name Moses, you may think of one of the greatest names in the Bible, and probably the greatest prophet in the Old Testament. And you certainly have an image of him in your mind, perhaps a very serious man with an inspiring look. But would you imagine he had horns coming out of his forehead? Certainly not. But this interpretation lasted for a long time in humanity and was reflected in art. The question is, why did this happen? The life and work of Moses are some of the central themes covered in the second book of the Bible, entitled Exodus. Moses, a simple man, was chosen by God to free the Hebrew people from slavery in Egypt. The Egyptian Pharaoh refused to free the people, so God sent 10 plagues to punish him. Moses then led the Hebrew people through the desert, even crossing the Red Sea, which, according to the Bible, was open for the people to pass through. After that, during the journey to the land promised by God to the Hebrew people, Moses was called by God to receive instructions. On this occasion, Moses went up to the Mount Sinai. Then, God gave Moses 2 tablets containing the 10 Commandments, which were to be followed by the Hebrew people. The moment Moses descends from Mount Sinai is the crucial moment. In Exodus chapter 34, verses 29, it says, "And it came to pass, when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tables of testimony in Moses' hand, when he came down from the mount, that Moses wist not that the skin of his face shone while he talked with him." It seems like a very simple passage, but translating this text from Hebrew to Latin was not easy, especially because of one word: Koran. This simple word was the cause of the disagreement that culminated in several artists representing Moses with horns. In the 4th century, more precisely in 382, Pope Damasus I commissioned a revision of some books of the Bible in Latin, aiming to find and correct translation mistakes. The person responsible for this work was a monk named Jerome of Stridon. Jerome was so excited about this work that he decided to translate other biblical books from Hebrew into Latin, and one of these books was Exodus. Jerome's translation became very famous and spread quickly throughout Europe, being known as the Vulgate. Let's return to the text. In Exodus 34:29, the Bible says that when he came down from Sinai, Moses had a different appearance and that his face shone. We can find the word Koran in the Hebrew passage. It turns out that the word Koran appears at other times in the Bible, always referring to rays, such as rays of light. When saying that Moses' face was with rays of light, the biblical text meant that he was illuminated, glorified, or shining. Jerome, however, took that passage as literal. It was then that Jerome made a very strange decision in his translation, transforming the Latin text into cornuta esset facies, which translates as "his face was horned." As the Vulgate became the most popular translation of the Bible during the Middle Ages, all the artists of the period began to depict Moses with horns, including the most famous work about the prophet, Michelangelo's Moses. Moses' horns became a recurrent figure in medieval paintings, being present in almost all representations of the prophet. There was much debate about why Jerome would promote a translation so different from the original text. Some scholars defend the thesis that it was an attempt to mock the Jews. Others say that this statement makes no sense, because no other Old Testament prophet was ridiculed. The truth is that Moses' horns only disappeared from popular culture after the new biblical translations and revisions, especially after the 17th century and the King James Bible, replacing the horns with rays of light. The Vulgate is one of the most influential works in history, and certainly at the time of its creation, no one could have imagined that the incorrect translation of a single word would influence an entire artistic period.